Soon and very soon, all of Iran's defense companies will be destroyed. Our response: we will keep pressing. We will keep pushing, keep advancing. No quarter, no mercy for our enemies. With the Strait of Hormuz under constant bombardment from Iranian missiles and drones, making it impossible for commercial shipping to pass through safely, the U.S. Navy directed an entire fleet of carriers and cruisers to the area to resolve the situation and reopen the strait. The aircraft carriers and their escort cruisers moved at full speed toward the strait. On board every ship, combat preparations were underway. Fighters launched from the carrier decks and climbed into patrol positions overhead. All missile launch systems across the fleet were tested and confirmed operational. Vertical launch cells cycled, targeting radars activated. Fire control systems brought online. Helicopters circled above the formation in continuous air patrol, scanning the skies for incoming Iranian Shahed drones that had been hitting ships and tankers in the area for days. Below deck on the carriers, ordnance crews brought up aviation bombs from the lower magazine compartments using the weapons elevators. These bombs, each one weighing approximately $2,000 lb, were wheeled across the hangar deck on loading carts and staged near the aircraft elevators for transfer to the flight deck. From there, they would be mounted on the fighters and sent toward Iranian military targets on the coast and inland. On the upper flight deck, maintenance crews were already at work mounting missiles and bombs onto helicopters and fighters parked in the staging area. Air-to-air missiles were locked onto the wingtip rails. Guided bombs were hoisted onto the underwing pylons. Each weapon was connected, tested, and confirmed ready. The arming pins stayed in until the aircraft was cleared for launch. FA-18F Super Hornets that had already been fully armed and inspected rolled forward onto the catapult tracks, one by one. They hooked up to the launch shuttle, ran their engines to full power, and were shot off the bow by the steam catapults. Each fighter climbed hard and banked toward Iranian airspace, carrying enough ordnance to strike multiple targets before returning to the ship. A group of Marines arrived on the carrier by V-22 Osprey, landing on the A section of the flight deck. These Marines were assigned to provide additional security for the ship and would also be available for ground operations if needed. They filed off the Osprey with full combat gear and were directed below deck to receive their assignments. On the lower decks, soldiers began preparing for carrier defense. They moved quickly up the ladders to the upper decks carrying shoulder-fired Stinger anti-aircraft missiles and sniper rifles. They spread out along the ship's perimeter, took their positions behind the railings and on elevated platforms, and began scanning the horizon and sky for incoming enemy drones. The Stinger team shouldered their launchers, powered on the targeting systems, and aimed outward, covering every approach angle. At the same time, on another section of the ship, a crew loaded ammunition belts into the Phalanx CIWS. The ship's close-in weapon system, an automated rapid-fire gun designed to shoot down incoming missiles and drones at close range. The ammunition drum was filled, the system was powered up, and the Radar G guided turret began tracking automatically, sweeping back and forth across its sector. The CIWS was now live and ready to engage anything that got past the outer defenses. On the upper deck, two soldiers stood behind a deck-mounted heavy machine gun. They loaded an ammunition belt, charged the weapon, and fired a short test burst over the water. The gun cycled cleanly. They fired another burst to confirm the weapon was operational. Nearby, an escort cruiser sailed alongside the carrier, maintaining formation at a set distance. The cruiser's weapon systems were fully active. Tomahawk cruise missiles loaded and ready for long-range strikes against Iranian targets, anti-air missiles on standby, radar sweeping constantly. The cruiser was there to protect the carrier and to deliver its own firepower when the order came. On the cruiser's deck, Marines loaded into MH-60's Nighthawk helicopters. Their mission was to provide an outer security ring around the cruiser, patrolling the waters and airspace at a distance from the ship. The helicopters lifted off, door gunners behind their weapons, and began flying a wide pattern around the vessel, watching for small boats, drones, or any other threat approaching the formation. The fleet was fully armed, fully manned, and moving toward the Strait of Hormuz at speed. Every ship, every aircraft, every weapon system was active and pointed toward Iran. In the Combat Information Center, the crew works without pause. Radar screens glow in the dimly lit room, operators tracking every moving object on the water and in the air across the entire area of operations. Surface contacts, air contacts, friendly aircraft, unknown returns. Everything is monitored, identified, and logged. Officers coordinate with the other ships in the formation, sharing threat data and updating the tactical picture in real time. On the flight deck level, the air boss manages the flow of aircraft from a control station overlooking the runway. Every fighter that lands after completing its mission is tracked. The air boss logs which aircraft has returned, what condition it is in, what it needs before it can go back up. One jet needs fuel, another needs a full weapons reload, a third has a maintenance flag. Hydraulic issue needs inspection before it flies again. The information is relayed instantly to the deck crews below. Below deck, the work that feeds this cycle never stops. Ordnance crews in the lower magazine compartments pull munitions from their storage racks, guided bombs, air-to-air missiles, rocket pods, cannon rounds. Each weapon is loaded onto a cart and wheeled to the weapons elevator. The elevator carries the ordnance up through the decks to the hangar level. From there, another crew takes over, moving the carts across the hangar deck to the aircraft elevator that lifts everything to the flight deck. Topside, the weapons are picked up by the arming crews who wheel them to the waiting aircraft and begin the mounting process. This chain runs continuously. As soon as one load of ordnance reaches the flight deck, the next load is already on the elevator coming up. The magazine crews below pull, load, and send. The hangar crews move and transfer. The flight deck crews mount and arm. Three teams working at different levels of the ship, all linked together, all moving at the same pace, keeping the fighters armed and in the air around the clock. The shifts rotate, but the work does not stop. Day blends into night and back into day. The ship burns through its weapon stocks. And the supply chain keeps feeding from the bottom up. Every bomb that leaves a pylon over Iran started its journey in a dark magazine compartment several decks below the waterline, handled by crews who never see the sky but keep the entire air operation running.